Jessica Crow, and I am the founder of Apogy and the host of Change Leader Insights, which is a podcast all about leadership and change. And we sort of covered the topic in three different areas: self-leadership, team leadership, and change leadership. And today, this is so much fun. My first guest of 2024 also is Jessica Crow, whom I met on LinkedIn, which is so fun. A couple of years ago, we have a similar background with yoga, although her depth of experience and expertise beyond transcends anything I have done up to this point in my life, which is why I'm really excited to have her on today's show. She is going to share with us some incredible wisdom and insights as it relates to meditation, mindfulness, self-leadership, really getting that foundation right. So it's a little bit like entering the Spider-Verse here today, having another Jessica Crow, different dimension. No, we're on the same dimension, don't worry. But I'm really happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here. Do you mind telling people who are watching and listening in a little bit about yourself, your story? So also, she is the CEO of a firm called CNTRD Wellness, and she teaches meditation teachers how to be just that and help them sort of be the best version of themselves, but also people who are just interested in developing a meditation practice. She's a massage therapist. I'll let you explain yourself. Go ahead and tell. You can do it better than I can. Give us your bio, your background, and how you got into all of this.
Thank you, Jessica. So my name is Jessica Crow as well. This is a super trippy thing. This is
really
great.
It's fun though.
So my background is in wellness for the last 25 years. I started as a massage therapist, energetic healer, very hands-on, very body-oriented kind of therapies. And then I was telling Jess earlier, I went to my first yoga teacher training because I had lived in New York for a few years and I started getting all of these strange symptoms, a lot of neurological symptoms, a lot of stress-related things. As I realize now, doctors had no idea what to say or think or do. Everyone was just hands up in the air. And I thought, I'm going to get out of here for a while. I'm going to go to Costa Rica. I'm going to learn some self-care, some breathing, I'm going to do some yoga. I know it makes me feel good. I'm doing it a few times a week in the studio. Never planned on teaching a moment in my life. Was not someone that spoke in front of people, had severe blocks with my voice at that point. And I only planned to go to find stress relief, ways to reduce the anxiety and stress in my life so I could feel healthier. I came out of that with a very deepened interest in yoga. Obviously, you don't really immerse yourself in something like that for, I believe it was 14 days, without saying, wow, this goes deep, philosophy, history, like all of the different styles. And it was an interdisciplinary yoga training as well. So we learned about all the different teachers and styles. I began to practice more steadily, 4 or 5 times a week, like really getting into the practice and the living of the yoga, like the taking yoga off the mat, all of those yamas and niyamas, the non-physical parts of yoga. And you start really, things come up, you start reflecting and you realize everyone in relationship around you, whether it's a stranger you're passing on the street or whether it's your partner that you're living with or someone really close, they're all reflecting back at you, right? They're mirrors. So you start to learn this and it becomes a little overwhelming, I guess, but it's enticing at the same time because you're really going deep and learning things about your own behaviors, about old behaviors, that kind of thing. So it's subtle and it gets more and more and more subtle. My teacher, Sri Dharma Mitra, says that self-knowledge is it's something that lasts a lifetime. Like you're always doing it, but the realizations get more and more and more and more subtle like those
Yeah.
little ahas, like you have to feel around for it. So you're always able to learn and change. So that being said, never planned on teaching. I thought I'm fascinated with how yoga and meditation
Hmm.
have so much to do with compassion
Hmm.
and the brain. And I was already very interested in the brain because in massage school, neurology was my favorite subject.
Hmm.
So I was fascinated by neuroscience. So I went back to school. I did my bachelor's in behavioral neuroscience or
Hmm.
neuropsychology, that crossover with a focus on meditation and mindfulness. So I had private classes exploring, especially Buddhism, Buddhist meditation practices, mindfulness. So my plan at the time was I'm going to go to Stanford University and I'm going to become a researcher and find out how to boost compassion in this
Yeah.
world. This world
Yeah.
needs compassion more
100%.
than ever. I mean, I don't know, just needs it
Yeah.
desperately. And I was also fascinated with intuition. And
Hmm.
I feel I've always been a very intuitive person by nature, but a lot of people are out of touch with that. And when I work with people one-on-one for decades, I had at that point, they don't know how to access what's best for them or what they should be doing or how they should be doing it. So that ability to tune back in
Hmm.
and the ability to create compassion and empathy, really nourish that and nurture it within ourselves so that we extend it outwards to the people around us, whether that's the people in your office or the
Hmm.
people in your community or even wider. That's where I was really, really passionate. Now, during that time when I was literally filling out forms to get an internship at Stanford and start studying this stuff with my favorite professor, Robert Sapolsky, was my
Yeah.
inspiration at the time,
Yeah.
does all this work on stress. During that time, I met one of my main teachers, Sri Dharma Mitra, here in New York City, and started studying with him. And just a month later, I felt I had some transmission from him, like I'm
Yeah.
supposed to teach for him. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to teach these things. So I went to another teacher training with him, and I dropped the whole, I'm going to be in a lab doing research to
Yeah.
help humankind. And I went the path of, I'm going to teach people one-on-one or maybe 50 people in a class at a time or
Yeah.
whatever I can do. I'm going to
Yeah.
teach people out here in the world, not in a lab room,
Yeah.
to help people in this way, in the same way, really, through a
Right.
different means, right?
Right.
So
Different impact. Yeah.
yeah, different means, a different method, different impact.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't want to test on animals. That's a whole
Yeah.
other thing, but
Whole other subject
you
for
see
sure.
my lab coat and no, uh, yoga clothes are more comfy.
Right.
So yes, it was a short time after I got certified as a Dharma yoga teacher that I was offered a spot to teach at the studio here in New York City. Sometimes taught classes right before Sri Dharma, which is just a magical thing to do. I was invited to mentor in his teacher trainings as well. I taught anatomy workshops there, which I created special yoga nidra
Yeah.
meditations
Yeah.
for the anatomy workshops, which were really fun. So I got to be creative. I taught his teachings in Hatha Raja Yoga.
Yep.
Hatha Raja Yoga is it's an intensive physical practice, but the Raja part, it's a focus on self-knowledge and
Mm.
meditation. So it's
Hmm.
really the combination of both of those. That's what that means. Um, I got to train other teachers from around the world. We would have groups of between 80 and 100 people several times a year from
Yeah.
all around the world. I got to connect with these people in their studios and learn how to, right off the bat, how to teach other teachers. So I did that for several years. And I guess it was sometime during sometime during the COVID era,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I want to take this in a different direction. I don't want to teach just individuals anymore or a class of 10 people. Like, I really want to affect more people.
Right.
How can I do this? And with my past, my experience of training teachers, I thought, I could train yoga teachers, no
Yeah.
problem. Like, very experienced yoga, got it. It's great. But there are a lot of people training yoga teachers. And
Yeah.
do we need more yoga teachers? Maybe we need more yoga teachers that have the skills to help people meditate
Mm.
and be more mindful in their lives, like not just, do a headstand or a downward dog, which are
Right.
great,
Right.
but yeah, maybe we need more of that. So I was always known for my voice teaching classes. Like, that was the feedback I got constantly. Um, I come to your classes just to listen to your voice. Can you just come home with me? And just talk to me
Not-
while I fall asleep. Like, it was always like, your voice is so calming and peaceful and relaxing. So
Yeah.
I began making recordings. I'm on Insight Timer
I have
if
listened to
anyone
several
uses
of your
that.
meditations on there.
Thank
Yes, you do
you.
have a beautiful, like the sound is just very soothing. Absolutely.
It's soothing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it soothes me as
Yeah.
well. You're
Yeah.
in the right field when, like, what you're doing makes you feel good as
Yes.
well. So it
Yes.
is something, teaching meditation and mindfulness makes me feel calm and relaxed as
Yeah.
well. So I know it's the right thing. I know it's coming through in the right way.
Yes.
So yes, I created a meditation teacher training. Right before that, actually, right at the beginning of COVID, I was
Yeah.
offered a book deal to write a book, The Power of Guided Meditation. It
Yeah.
was such a blessing because I was here in New York City. Everything was shut down. Nobody was working. Everyone on unemployment. You couldn't
Yeah.
go outside. Like, we were still scared to go outside,
Right.
like
Right.
open the window at that point. And I closed a book deal with a UK publisher, and I just sat in my apartment and wrote about meditation and wrote
Yeah.
meditations for like 3 months. And it was
You
the best thing for
also seem
me
perfect. Yeah.
because it was so, and I don't know if you hear all the noise in the background now,
No.
but
Mm-mm.
okay, good, good.
All good. Yeah.
It was worse then. Like, I live on an ambulance pathway, first of
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Um, there were protests up and down the streets.
Oh
There
my
were
gosh.
wild shows of illegal fireworks all the time. There was just so much. It was the city times 100.
Right.
And with the anxiety that I normally have anyway, it was so much. And the best thing I could have done was sit here and write a book on meditation and go through it over and
Yeah.
over. It was like
Yes.
healing for me. So it was a piece that helped me get through it, that is now out there in the world helping other people, create a beginning practice as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, I
So it
love it.
was, yeah, I guess it was on the tails of that book that I was like, okay, that felt nice to, like, now it's literally all over the world. People write from Australia. They're like, I got this in a bookshop, or they tag me in something online.
Oh,
It's
how fun.
strangers. It's really cool. And I was like, this is nice. Like, I would like to affect more people. So if I create an online
Yeah.
meditation program,
Yeah.
everyone was so used to Zoom at that point that it was
Right.
acceptable. Like, in the
Yeah.
past, it wouldn't have been
Live
acceptable.
only. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, people can do this, like, less expensive. They don't need to travel. They can do it
Mhm.
from anywhere. They can do most of it on their own time because it's a combination of on demand and some live classes, and
Yeah.
then personal mentorship with me, which is my favorite part because that's
Definitely.
the
You see
juice
the
of it.
magic
Like,
happen there. That's right.
yeah, when you see them, like, become confident
Yeah.
in their voice, or they're like, wow, I noticed in my practice that, this situation happened and I didn't react the same way. I found that little space between, normally I would have, but I found, wow, like,
Yeah.
those kind of, it's really, really cool to watch. So, Yeah, so this is not just for meditation teachers, people that want to go out and teach, you know, the
Yeah.
same way that I went to my yoga teacher trainings just to deepen my knowledge and get tools to help my anxiety and help my stress. People come to do that as well, just to take it as an immersion.
Yes.
But the other people that come, it's been a lot of yoga teachers
Yeah.
that did, you said you studied at Core Power,
I
right?
did. Yep.
So I imagine that they don't teach a lot of meditation, but I'm not sure.
No, they don't. Not in the sense that you're talking about. I mean, they go through,
Mm.
it's a 200-hour program, so they cover quite a bit, but the information related to meditation, they talk about it, but it's not a focus. It's not an
Not the
extended
focus.
practice. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And
The
that's,
breath work and the body movement is really where they emphasize, which makes sense for what they were trying to accomplish with the teacher training and getting more teachers in their studios. And it was a great program, no doubt. But to your point,
yeah.
there's an opportunity there for yoga teachers to find that connection, and for people in general, because you mentioned it's not just for yoga teachers, it's for anybody who's doing that, who wants to deepen their own understanding and build that
Yeah.
foundation.
Exactly. Yeah, for yoga teachers, it's like a lot of them, that's the, in the US anyway, like we're
Yeah.
very focused on the asana and the body stuff.
Yep.
And it makes sense in a way that there's a lot more to go over. Like if you're coming
Yeah.
from a background, if you're coming from a background like massage therapy or some kind of medicine, you know anatomy, you know
Yeah.
kinesiology and body movement, it's like, okay. But for
Yeah.
people that are just, they don't have any of that, you really
Like
do
me.
have, you
Yeah.
have to spend the majority of the time on that because
Right.
that's the majority of a normal class. So
That's right. Yeah.
there's a little, there's meditation, but so a lot of teachers come out saying like, I don't feel confident enough teaching
Yeah.
meditation and I
Yeah.
don't understand enough styles or like what to give them or how to build a class.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the other people that come in are, they're trying to find their own self practice and they've used an app like Headspace or they've
Mhm.
tried this or that. And it's nice, but it's not like getting them to where they want to be. It's
Yeah.
not pushing them forward and they keep slipping off of it and they keep falling off of it.
Right.
And to be able to immerse themselves in more of the philosophy and the history and different modalities and how they're different and how they also overlap
Yeah.
and they get to experiment with different things because it's like week to week they have these different practices in the program. They're supposed to do them the same time every day, try a different time. They find
Yeah.
what time of day works. They find what kinds of practices they prefer.
Yeah. Not a
Because this
one
is
size
like
fits all.
the thing I'm finding out. Yes, not one size fits all. It's people will do something if they like it, first
Yeah.
of all, like they're like, yeah, I don't mind doing that. Or like if they have any resistance to the background, the lineage, like the spiritual, anything, any resistance around what it is,
Yeah.
then they're probably not going to go there. So there
Right.
should be no resistance. They should kind of like it and they should be able to feel the immediate results. When
Yes.
people can feel the immediate results from a practice or an exercise, then it's almost like linked into their body. It's like
Yeah.
a cellular map is just created right away.
Yes. That.
So, and then the more they practice, and then we find that thing, that's your thing. And that's the time of day, and that's the length of practice. And
Mm,
you'll know when you need to switch it. Like you could, because you'll be getting more intuitive and
yeah.
more self-information, you know? So
Yeah.
it's really good for, yeah, creating your own self-care practice and
Yeah.
becoming more mindful, taking those pieces out into your life, which is it's the essence of the whole thing. I
Absolutely.
mean, great, you can feel like anytime you feel better in yourself, you're gonna come, you're presenting yourself better in the world, like anytime. Just try it. Just walk around today with like a, you know, just a resting bee face, or walk around.
Yeah. Yeah. See what happens,
Can I
right?
curse on here? Yeah, see what happens, or
Yeah. You
walk
can do
around with
whatever.
that, like you know, like when when you're, like when you're in love, you're like falling for someone you're in
Yeah.
love, or like, or something good, just like you're up for this like promotion and it's like something
Yeah.
you really want to do. And you're just kind of like, your face is like in this, and your mind is in that
Right.
open space
Your
too.
energy. Yeah.
Your energy is different and you're affecting everyone around you different. You're open to giving someone a smile. You're open to stopping to give someone advice that you would normally just, you're better able to function in society
Absolutely.
as a caring, compassionate human being. And the science around all of this
Hmm.
says that the areas of your brain that govern compassion, decision making, um, morals, like all of these really important things for
Your executive function.
evolutionary growth,
Yeah.
like they are strengthened, and it doesn't take long either. You can see some of these effects after 30 or 60 days. It just takes consistency.
Right.
But the prefrontal cortex of the brain, the hypopituitary axis, like the links to places in the brain that hold on to memories, especially
Yeah.
traumatic and fearful memories,
Yeah.
it's like it's switched. I'm putting this in very, very simple language, but
Yeah.
it's like the energy from the fear and the trauma and the anxiety or the
Yeah.
depression or the like, like, I don't know, I'm
Right.
overthinking, like the energy from that moves
Right.
to this newer part of our brain, which is our like executive control center, it's
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
called. And that is the place that needs to be lit up, like lit up with
Where we should be
energy, and
operating
like energy
from.
circuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it needs to be opened. When you say open mind, it's funny, it's sort of the same thing. It's
Right.
like an opening in the brain, like an activation. Someone's turned on the switch. There's more electrical currents. There's more growth. There's more neural connections in this place. And that is how we start to see
Yeah.
that's when we can have like self-control and focus. And when we do have practices like meditation, mindfulness practices in
Mhm.
daily life, that's when we start to see patterns. And I'm really big into my course on Daily Om is all
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah.
taking you through, like how to get to that place. So you create a practice and then be able to watch, observe, assess your
Hmm.
patterns in the subconscious, because we're all walking around with it. We're all
Hmm.
walking around with the bad stuff that happened to us, the things we haven't forgiven, the
Right.
things we're concerned, like we're all walking around with it. And, science has said this has been a stat for so many years. It may have changed a little now, but
Yeah.
it's something like 90% of the thoughts that you have every day are the same ones that
Yeah.
cycle over and over. What?
Yeah. And they're not
Who
usually
wants
positive ones.
that?
Yeah.
No, like
Yeah.
if that's going to be true, and it is, like if that's the truth of things, let's cycle some great stuff around. Like let's
Yeah.
cycle around the things we want to create and the person we want to be, right?
Move from that
So,
place of reacting to being able to respond, which has that pause that's incorporated. Yeah. I'm really, so this
mhm,
is, everyone needs to hear this because I, well, so kind of going back to something you said earlier, I went through yoga teacher training too, not because I wanted to teach, but because I wanted to develop some skills to take care of myself, to be able to use my voice, to develop confidence and just a different understanding of how I show up in the world. And it led to me
right.
teaching later on. But what was really transformative about that experience is it changed how I showed up and thought and behaved in the workplace. And it led me to actually leave the corporate world and start Apogee and this podcast, and put me on a path of understanding the links between wellness and well-being and our how we lead ourselves, how we lead teams, how we lead change, and everything that you've talked about. This kind of your arc to becoming a teacher who's teaching others the value and benefits and the practices of meditation, and creating this multidisciplinary different lineages. And it's so important for us dive into that, because if yoga teacher training for me created this amazing experience, and that is not necessarily a path lots of people are going to take, meditation is something that is accessible to everyone. And so learning those skills, learning how to self-regulate, learning how to get control of those thoughts that you're having, the 90,000, and changing the energy, changing the direction. When you think about that, how that would transform our homes, our relationships, our communities, our workplaces. And stress is, I think it was like 2019, the World Health Organization said that was the global epidemic. And then the pandemic happened, and so that became the global epidemic. But stress is something we deal with in our workplaces all the time. And that's on top of everything that you've just mentioned, the trauma, the anxiety, the depression, the other things we're feeling. So we've got this base of whatever it is for all the reasons. And then you add in stress and in the workplace. And if we're not mindful of everything that you've just talked about and thinking about how to grow and develop in this area, I mean, those are the types of people that are leading our organizations, our communities, and government. Like there's just, we've got to make a switch somewhere where this becomes a conversation that is normalized, and people are actively pursuing, what it is that you're teaching, because there's a direct impact on everything. I'm going to say might be a broad
Everything.
brush, but it really is on everything.
Everything. Yeah.
I mean, you've shared how,
Everything.
meditation and yoga and all of that has changed your life. I mean, if you were to, you know, as leaders, like we'll just kind of go in that direction momentarily, people leaders, if they don't have, like, what are some of the benefits of more benefits? Because you've already shared quite a few of
Mm.
being able to lead others effectively if you have that self leadership, that foundation in place. Like, what are some, how might that transform someone from who they are today to who they could potentially be as a leader of people?
Well, I think we talked about reactivity, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yep.
So one of the first things I see people that I'm training when they get an aha moment, and that's one
Yeah.
of the first things often is they realize that they would have reacted a certain way to something that
Mhm.
happened to them, how someone spoke to them, or a stressful event that came up. But
Yeah.
they found this moment in between
Yeah.
where there was a space where they got to choose how
Yes.
to react.
Yeah.
So really they got to choose how to respond and not just instinctively react, because we're often
That's
instinctively
survival.
reacting and making decisions. Yeah, it comes from the reptilian part of the brain and the
Mhm.
brainstem, and this is all trauma, fear. That's what we're trying to get out of and away
Right.
from. Serves its purpose, but we don't want to be there most of the day in most
Right.
of our lives, right?
Right.
Um, Another thing I think about is just patience, and that
Mhm.
kind of goes along with having that space to
Yeah.
step back, the patience to say, like, I don't need to respond yet. Let me reflect on this and let me see how it feels in my body. Because
Yeah.
I think that's another thing, that's another huge thing, could be another podcast.
I was gonna say that
How
is
people
the
are really out of touch with
Mhm.
their physical bodies. And you know this as a yoga teacher. Um, People are really out of touch
Mhm.
with the fact that there is a mind body connection. Like we
Mhm.
hear that term all the time, but we don't really know what it is.
Right.
Um, Meditation helps you find and realize that connection through well, this month I'm doing a month of mindfulness practices, so I'm based in Buddhist mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
So it started
Yeah.
with body. I always start with body awareness because it's important to be able to, control your focus and
Mhm.
just pay attention to your body. If we
Oh,
don't even
yeah.
pay attention to our bodies a lot, we could be at the gym doing things for our body and we're not paying attention to the body. We could
Absolutely.
be in the shower, we're not paying, like
Yeah.
you could be paying for a massage and not even paying attention to your
Right.
body because you're stuck
Right.
here. But what we have to realize is a lot of emotion
Mhm.
is harboring in the body. It is hiding out in the body, and it can affect how we present ourselves and the confidence that we give off to others. It can, it really can affect how we show up in a room and how we influence other people without even saying a word. So the body
True.
stuff is very interesting. And coming back to patience, I think that you learn to have patience and intuition. Everyone has, and you don't learn to have intuition.
You learn
Everyone
to
has
trust it,
intuition.
really.
You
Yeah.
learn to, or even find it, because people are cut off from it.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, look at the world today. We're just here most of the time,
Yeah. Yep.
and we're being fed how to think and what to think
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
So we're very, maybe more than ever, cut off from our intuition. So just to be able to tune in and access that, so to have
Yeah.
that pause, that space where like, I'm not going to react. I'm going to take a moment and respond. I'm going to go sit, or I'm going to, sleep
Yeah.
on it. That's always like, that's a nice thing my dad taught me when I was little.
Yeah.
Knows nothing about, like sleep on it,
Yeah.
because then you
Nice
have
thing,
time
totally
to,
different perspective. Yeah.
yeah, you have time to reflect on it and see, notice how it feels in your body. I keep touching my
Yeah.
mic.
Yeah.
You learn through these practices to look for certain sensations in your body too.
Mhm.
Like, what is it I'm feeling? Where am I feeling it? What does that mean? What's coming up in my head while I'm focused on feeling this contraction in my chest? So
Yeah.
I just had an interaction with my coworker, or my superior, and
Yeah.
I found that moment of space, and I'm like, oh, what? Okay, don't react, don't go from the
Yeah.
fear mode. And I've
Yeah.
gone and like sat in my office for a while. I'm gonna just sit quiet, turn the phone off, sensing my body. I'm just going to close my eyes, sense my breath. Is my breath contracted? Is my breath shallow? Because that means I'm scared,
Yeah.
right? I'm fearful. I'm not coming from a relaxed state. I'm coming from my sympathetic nervous system,
Mhm.
stress, fight or flight. So I can take a few slow breaths and easily within 2 minutes switch my nervous system so
Yeah.
that I'm coming from a calm place. And then I can check out, what am I feeling in my body?
And why? Yeah.
And why? What's coming up in my head? What are the thoughts that are coming up? What are the emotions and feelings that are coming up? Let me just watch them without judging them or getting too involved in them.
Mhm.
They could have nothing to do with the situation. They could be past things that are somehow connected that
Yeah.
you haven't resolved or let go of yet. So this work is deep, but it happens really quickly. Like
Yeah.
you'll see effects from it very quickly, and that's what's encouraging to keep going. But to say it's not deep, or that it doesn't scare some people to go inside and see the parts of themselves they don't like or want,
Yeah.
like, that would be lying. It
Yeah.
is work.
Yes.
It's not all
Absolutely.
like, now just breathe out and you
Yeah.
feel so
Feels
much
so great.
good. Stay relaxed. Your whole body is full of light.
You're
You're
like, nope, it
wonderful.
takes some
Like,
serious work.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be both. It can
Yeah.
be like, it can feel great, and it
It
can feel
is both.
awful. And that's
Yeah.
how real change is. That's how, change. If you're someone that goes to therapy and believes in therapy, you're that an advocate for mental health therapy.
Yeah.
Like, that's what, sometimes it feels great and
And
you're
sometimes
having
it
breakthrough. And
doesn't. Yeah.
sometimes like, this is awful. I don't even want to go back. Why am I doing this? This is,
Yeah.
so we go through this, and I think you go through that with, physical change and adjustment too.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is a different path. We're not used to assessing our own thoughts. We're not used to sitting with ourselves. We're not used to quiet anymore in this
No.
hectic world. Like, there's always stimulation.
Hmm.
So the gift of all of this is, we get to learn about what's really happening inside,
Hmm.
and then we get to choose what to do with it.
Right. I love that. And, as you were describing that, I mean, I was thinking a little bit about how even company culture and corporate culture, it is not primed for that, right? It's make a decision in the moment, use data to drive the decision making. And what you're talking about is a very different way of approaching how we live and work. And it is creating that space. It's having that pause. It's doing those things that are counter to how we have sort of become for all the reasons that you've explained. And if we start to go in that direction of incorporating mindfulness and meditation and finding those pauses and exploring what's happening here, then that conversation we're having with our boss, that change that just got, said it's going to happen, our reaction becomes a response, and it's coming from a place of patience and calm and compassion, which you talked about earlier too, which I fully agree is so necessary and needed. And it's hard, having had conversations with many leaders, like, what does that mean to be a compassionate leader? What does that mean? And a lot of what you've talked about can help people find that inner compassion for themselves and for others. But, being able to make decisions from that place, from that post pause place, that compassionate
Mm.
place, I think would be just a really incredible, it would transform how I think our company culture, maybe even American culture in many ways. I think there's a lot of ancient history and tools and resources that we dabble in but haven't fully embraced. I mean, how America sort of come together. We're bringing things from all different places, people from different places, and where can we anchor as as citizens? And honestly, I do think it starts with that everything that you've talked about, that self leadership place. So not just I'm kind of going big and then bringing it back, but I believe so strongly in everything you've talked about. How do we reorient ourselves using the tools and um, the techniques of meditation and mindfulness, and let that be where we build and grow from, not only in our homes and our relationships, but our communities and places of work. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What about, for someone who is kind of getting started, they've heard this conversation and they want to learn more. They can obviously kind of look you up and go to your website and start with that mindfulness course. Go
Yeah.
to the Daily Om and check that out. But you know, if I'm curious about it but not totally sure, what advice would you give me, and sort of just to reinforce, like, you're on the right path, this is a place to explore, and how it can sort of help you transform as a human.
I think it's nice so you either have a teacher that you resonate with.
Yeah.
That's how it happens for a lot of people. They're like, I didn't feel anything about it really until I met this teacher.
Yeah,
They
very
inspire. So
true, very
if you
true.
click with the teacher, you click with that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. That's ideal. Um, Community
Mm-hmm.
is the other thing. To have a community, whether it's live or virtual, that is wanting to do the same kind of exploration as
Mm-hmm.
you and wanting to commit to the same, that accountability. So I would
Yeah.
say also, like, if for people to go to my Instagram, because that's kind of like, go to my website is great, but the Instagram is like the hub of
Yeah.
everything, and all of my
Okay.
links to things are there. They can sign up for newsletters and see all the free classes, whatever's happening. Like, all the
Yeah.
promotional stuff is there. But I
Yeah.
also have practices that I teach there, and it's a place, meant for community.
Yeah.
Um, Insight Timer is a similar thing.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying. I started teaching live classes. They're now on Sundays at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
and it's worldwide. So it's
Which is
very
very cool.
cool.
Yeah.
I've been getting like 70 to 80 people in a class. And when
Wow.
people are there together with the same intention,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to the same thing, it's really powerful. Um, I really think it heightens the experience of everyone in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do they, okay, I've loved everything you've said, and I'm hoping that people who are listening and watching, they feel a little tug in their heart and they go check out your Instagram page. What is your Instagram handle? I think it's called. Is it like your Instagram name?
Yeah.
Where
The
should they
handle.
find you?
Yeah. It's Centered. So the name of my company is Centered, CNTRD. So there's
Okay.
no vowels in it. It used to be centered NYC, and I was like, there's a lot of E's in there. So let's simplify it. Let's
There you
simplify,
go. There you go.
center the word. So it's CNTRD down. What's the down?
I
I
forget.
always
Yeah.
forget.
I know what you're talking about. The down, folks. The
The
down.
down, yeah.
The down line.
Wellness, centered wellness. That's the
Underscore. That's what
handle.
it is, right?
Underscore CNTRD underscore wellness is
Okay.
my Instagram handle. Centered meditation is my TikTok. I'm just getting active on there. You can find me on all the platforms, but the Instagram is sort of the hub and
Yeah.
links to everything. And you can, find ways to explore classes to just like pop into. This is where you can ask questions straight to
Yeah.
me. I handle my Instagram, like everything's coming to me.
Yeah.
So just know that this is not like a
That's
team of
on the
other
fly.
people.
Yeah.
Like if you have a specific question on your practice, you've started before, your struggles, what next step, how can I help you? Instagram, you can direct message me or through the website. It's always me answering, and I will help in any way that I can.
Incredible.
Um,
What a
yeah,
gift. That's amazing. And then you're also on Insight Timer, as you mentioned, as Jessica
right.
Crow. And then LinkedIn, you're Jessica Crow as well. So make sure you it's centered wellness versus Apogee. Lots of places to find you. But no matter where you're at in your journey, whether it's, and I think we're always sort of at that coming back to the foundation and continually kind of working through all the things. So self-leadership, team leadership, change leadership. I hope that this conversation gave some insights into the value and benefits of developing more mindfulness and pursuing meditation, and how that can not only help you in your own lives, reduce your anxiety, stress, help you find those moments of pause and balance, but how it can help you be a more effective leader and whatever that means for you today. So Jessica, again, so fun that we are having this conversation, that we are, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with my community, because there's a lot of similarities and overlaps in terms of where people are looking and how to enact and empower themselves and others to change. Thank you so much for today. I can't wait to share this conversation. Yeah, thank you again for your time, and I hope that lots of people look into the great, amazing resources that you're sharing with the world. So thanks again.
Thank you. I also hope so. Just like a final note too, like
Yes,
it
please.
really does start within you. It starts
Mhm.
with each person and then just projects outward, outward, outward to all
Yes.
the way to that management level.
Yes.
So it starts here. It can't start anywhere else. This is the
That's
only
right.
way it can come from. So
Yes.
yeah, I hope that anyone that hasn't tried meditation or has tried and kind of fallen off or not found the right thing will reach out, and I could give some recommendations on
Amazing.
what might help them click
Love that.
a little bit more. And this
Yeah.
was so fun, Jessica. Thank you so much for
Yes.
having me on today.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.